Alex, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me, who is Alex Bowen?
Oh, it's a very difficult question.
It's the hardest one, don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to look at myself now, I'd just say like loving husband, father, and do you know what? I'm just one of these people that's very positive of pretty much everything that I can be.
Have you always been like that?
I mean, yeah, like ever since I've been a kid, I've kind of like growing up, I didn't really have my dad or anything like that. So it was pretty much just me and my mom. Then I had like my granddad was my father figure, so he kind of taught me his values. So I think I'm quite like old-fashioned in that sense, like the way I like respect women and like just being there for your family and stuff. I'm quite like that. So
yeah, the positivity is a constant, and authenticity as well. They're the sort of things that came off everything I've watched and listened. But you've had a life kind of, I guess, before Love Island and after, but you haven't actually changed. There's nothing that's sort of distracted you or changed those sort of compass, if you like.
yeah, to be honest, I think that's why like me and Liv, we was on it like a decade ago. I mean, that's crazy to say. But I think we've kind of like kept going and kept working because we haven't changed who we are. And I think some people kind of fall off that.
Yeah.
So being authentic is key really of like just progressing in life, I guess so.
Because one of the things, I wondered your perspective actually on Love Island. You were the second series, and ultimately I believe the only couple to have gone on and married from the show. Have I got that right? Or?
At that time, yeah. I think there's maybe two or three now, I think.
Okay.
But we was the first, I'll tell that.
Yeah, of course. Say that. But yeah, there's for me, you're, I don't want to say normal guy because what's normal, but you're grounded, you're good company, you're someone that, clearly I would say your friendships are solid, whereas there's people that I would feel have come through in more recent times where are they being chosen to be extreme, to be different, to be kind of more clickbaity for viewership?
For the viewership, yeah.
Yeah, do you follow it? Have you watched that? Because it just feels like that's crept in, and I think maybe that's where some of the original people that went on have built such a following and been able to go on and achieve more things.
I mean, I think when we went on, like, I didn't really know what the first season was. And then they messaged me on Instagram a couple of times, and then I remember I was scaffolding at the time, and it was raining, and I said to my gaffer, I was like, ITV's messaged me, and he was like, what? And I said, do you want to go on the show? And then I just ended up going on, but we didn't realise what we'd get when we come off it, so there was kind of like that innocence there, I guess.
That worked for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be like...
There was no agenda?
No, there was nothing, yeah. Like, I mean, I went on there for a laugh and a suntan and see what happens, do you know what I mean? That was like my mentality back then. But then obviously I found my wife on there, and it's like, with like previous Love Islands, like the later versions, like to me, when people say, oh, it's not authentic anymore, like there's going to be people that go on there for people say the right or wrong reasons, but if they want to go on there to better their life and better their career and maybe make a face or a name for themselves, then I don't really think that's a bad thing. Does it take the authenticity away from Love Island being like just about couples? Maybe a little, but I don't think you can go against them people for just wanting to better their life, I guess.
No. And it sounds like you went into it totally open-minded, again, without any kind of agenda. Did you then realise, upon coming out, that you had a massive opportunity to harness the things you'd never been able to do before?
Yeah, so my friend was looking after my Instagram account, and on the day of the final, my Instagram was fairly new back then. It went up like 250,000 in a day. And my friend, when I seen him, he looked at me and he said, what have you done? And then I knew some people in the industry anyway, and they said, you've done really well. And then, it kind of just went from there, really. And I think having Liv by my side, we was there for each other, experiencing like everything that come our way together. We wasn't on our own, so we kind of had that support system there. So
that's a really good point, actually. I was thinking about this with you and Liv, like, people that meet and then date, maybe go on a meal a week or what have you. You were like the intensity. By the time you came out, you knew each other so well. There was kind of nowhere to hide.
Yeah, well, it's like 24 hours a day. You haven't got your phone. You haven't got a watch. There's no clocks on the wall. You don't know the time. If you're meeting someone on the outside and you go out for a dinner once a week for 6 weeks or 6 months, whatever. I was in there for 6 weeks, 24 hours a day, sharing a bed with that person instantly. Like you just
with the whole world watching as well.
Exactly.
By the way, right?
I mean, to be fair, you kind of forget that as you're in there. But yeah, everything's just magnified by like times 1,000.
So coming to that, so you got to know Liv, and you got to ultimately have a friendship and relationship that's blossomed, right? And we'll come more to that. But you now come out, and you have probably been intrigued about what might be happening out there to then realise it's become big.
Yeah.
Who's looking out for you then? So you've got your mate looking after your Instagram.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden you've got all sorts of opportunities. You've got job opportunities, and I guess the TV star that becomes an influencer opportunity. How do you manage that?
To be honest, I was very lucky. I mean, I went out with a different agency and I did well at the time. But my new agent now, he's over there, he's pretty good.
Megan, let's name her.
Megan and Freddie, yeah. Freddie I was with from the start. But yeah, like, I think it's good to just have, like, we're friends as well, do you know what I mean? Like, so it's
There's a
kind of
trust.
like, it's like a family thing and a trust thing, so that's really helped. But obviously, people that come off the show, someone just wants to earn money from you. Do you know what I mean? And I guess that's the name of the game, but like we've got that good connection with our agency, so that's really good. So
I was going to ask you that. So take Freddie and Megan as examples. So you've got all this coming to you. And there's also stuff you potentially like to do. You're big into your fitness. So can I influence that part of my journey to be able to have fitness as something that I can then make money out of?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that sort of process, and is it really intense? Have you got to make those decisions in days, weeks from the show? Because there's so much limelight on you at that point.
Yeah, to be honest, I think the reason me and Liv have like carried on and continued, we've kind of said no to jobs that doesn't align with us. Like sometimes, like if you want to do well and earn money, I get that.
So but it's not about the money, it's about longevity.
I'm not going to say that we haven't done jobs like for the money, because we have, but if it's something that I really don't agree with, I'm not going to do it. And then when it comes down to like my fitness aspect, I was training people before I was scaffolding back in the day. That was always my passion. And then obviously this wild ride that we've been on for the past decade, it's been amazing. But now I'm reverting back to that passion. So obviously I've started my own fitness company.
DJing?
Yeah, DJing. I mean, to be honest, that was kind of like for fun, and then I ended up getting booked and more bookings come.
Isn't that the best way? That's my point.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because you've got a following. You can do something you enjoy, and actually, then people know who you are. You're talented at it, and then you can actually get booked for it.
Yeah, I mean, what I love to say to people is, like, you've got to say yes to every opportunity you get within reason, as long as it aligns with your values. Because if you say no, you could have met someone on that shoot, even though that shoot didn't work out, for example, but you've met someone that's going to take you somewhere else. So I think you've always got to say yes to every opportunity you get, really.
So there's momentum there. And I think that was going to take me to almost staying relevant. So that's what it feels to me like you've done. And it was, like you say, a decade ago that you were on Love Island, and we're talking about it now, but there's so much more you've done. And I want to sort of fast forward to the future. What is it you've not done yet that you would love to be able to do?
Do you know what? I'm pretty simple. Like, I love just having me, my wife, my son. Now I've got a little girl on the way. I like going to like the local pub with my friends, enjoying that. I like the simple life from that kind of thing. From a work point, I want to try and build my fitness company as big as it could be. And I'd like to do another TV show if it was right. But I'm not sure what I would do. I'd like to do SAS because I feel like that would be a challenge.
You'd be good at that.
Yeah, I won't be able to do the jungle or anything like that because
we meet the critters.
That's not for me.
I want to talk about the confidence element, right? So I know there's a part of me, I'll never know, right? But I know there's a part of me that if I'd been given the opportunity to go on Love Island at my mid-20s, I reckon I'd have myself and probably said no.
Yeah.
And why? The fear of judgment, the whole lacking the confidence to do that. Was there any part of you that sort of doubted yourself, or you just went, as soon as the opportunity was there, you went straight in?
Do you know what? People think that I'm like really confident and whatever, and I'm like, I'm not that confident. I just don't like losing or like my mind beating myself really. So I kind of think that, like I said before, you just got to take every opportunity, and I just hated saying no. And I mean, to be honest, I was so scared when I went in.
Oh, you were? That's good to know.
Yeah, I was very scared when I went in.
But the fear of regret and not doing something feels like it's more of a driver.
Yeah, because then I'd have to live with me thinking, I should have done that. Why didn't you just do it?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like, even coming here today, you get a bit of jitters, like thinking what we're going to talk about. But then as it happens, like, you settle in. I mean, I feel comfortable, fine. But a lot of people are scared to get to that stage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the whole put yourself out of your comfort zone that actually builds growth and resilience.
Yeah, exactly.
And talking about that pre-Love Island scaffolding. So you've got a phenomenal physique, proper framing. Scaffolding is obviously a very labour-intensive job, if you like.
Yeah.
I imagine you were super good company on site, right? Which has carried on to right now.
Yeah.
But tell me, I know that there was a really dark time for you. Your mate Joe took his own life, and I know from my own background in property and construction that the stats in construction are awful in mental health, particularly from a male point of view. Have you kind of, I'm taking you to a dark place, but have you sort of seen any improvement of that? The mates you had from old, is there any kind of glimmer of hope that that's getting a better place to be in an environment that's nice to be working in, or is it still a tough place to be?
I think it's still a tough place to be because it's tough work to do. Do you know what I mean?
It's long hours. It's not a lot of pay.
Yeah, it's not a lot of pay, and I think that's the thing. Like, the climate's just getting worse. Like, it's harder to buy a house of your own, and being in that industry, like, money, at the end of the day, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it does make the world go round and takes that stress away from you. So I think it all boils down to that.
The sort of man-to-man conversation which we're having now, I think there's an element of, say, 10, 15 years ago, if we'd both been playing football last night or been in the gym and I've pulled my calf a bit, I'll talk to you about it. I say, oh, bloody, this really hurts. But I won't say I'm struggling with my relationship or I've got mental issues. Where do you sit with that? Because I feel like I could talk to you about anything and I've only just met you. You've got that vibe about you. I'm like that. Have you felt that changing in your friendships with guys and... for the better?
When I lost my best friend, it was like the hardest thing I had to go through. And I think when it comes down to like our friendship group now, we check in with each other more. But what annoys me the most is it took my best friend to die for us to think that way. And that's why, I mean, I was starting to do some challenges and stuff, but I couldn't because I got injured running and whatever. So I kind of like took a step back. But I just wanted to spread more awareness to it because, to be honest, it was like an annoyance that it did take my best friend to die for us to like kick us up, do something about it.
I do get that.
But yeah, like with our friendship group now, we will check in with each other. And say if someone's quiet in the group chat, we'll be like, I'll text him and it's really like minimal. I'll say like, right mate, how you doing? And then he'll be like, yeah, I'm okay, you. Then I'll ask him again, no, really, how are you doing? Then that gives him like a little like glimmer just to say, oh, he's actually checking in on me to see how I'm feeling. And me and my lad spoke about that after we lost Joe, just check in with each other more.
That's awesome. And have you had any experiences where that's opened someone up a little bit? Because I imagine, and I want to come out of this now, but I imagine there was that almost guilty best friend. How I didn't see the signs, I didn't know, and that's not a reflection on you at all. I know people that have got that, and I'm close to something similar that happened that, you know, it shocks you and then you can feel weirdly guilty. But have you, since doing that and practicing that, had anyone come back and say, actually, yeah, can we catch up? Can we meet? I've got something to talk about.
Oh,
actually seen that validation on doing that.
Yeah, 100%. Like one of my, I'm not, obviously I won't name them, but they've gone through a few different things like splitting up with girlfriends or whatever, or losing the house and stuff. And like, that's when you know that someone needs your help more so than ever, especially after we've already lost someone in our group. So I think we're very lucky for our lads group. Like that we've been through it, so we know how to kind of like react to it and see when others are down.
Yeah.
Because like you said, like lads act differently to ladies. Do you know what I mean?
And I think some of the lads that, you know, and actually without it being you, the guy that can often be coming across as super confident and you'd never think it was him. Sometimes they're the people that check in with most.
They're the ones you have to look out for, really.
What do you do to look after your own physical and mental? I know the fitness side of things is important. I want to know what you actually do. There's so many things we can do to keep fit, right? It's important to me. So I have if I can, a morning routine where even if I'm in a hotel room staying over, I'll try and just do press-ups and a plank and so on. And I also know that's really good for my mental health. What works for you?
If I don't go to the gym, I feel really bad. So if I haven't gone to the gym for about 3-4 days, like Liv will see a change in my mood. So being fit, being really physical and having that side will help you mentally. So for me personally, I think, like I say this to my clients as well, because like, if they are feeling down, they can always talk to me. But it's not always just about going into the gym, lifting weights or going for a run. Just go out there and walk on your own. Walk
Fresh
your
air
dog.
can be
Just
super
walk
good
your
as well,
dog.
right?
Just get your steps in, whatever it can be, and that will really help you mentally as well. So
yeah, I listened to something that actually made me realise I've never talked about this with anyone before. I was a really thin kid, and I wasn't more slim than any other lads, but I felt it. And I noticed that I've always loved my food. I still do. But I seem to need to eat a lot to actually keep my weight.
Yeah.
Now, in a different conversation, plenty of people go, oh, hard shit, mate. You know, I need to look at an ice cream and I'm kind of overweight.
Yeah.
I've never had that. And although I'm not asking for any sympathy, I read that you sort of almost had the similar thing, and I wondered how much of that means because you are super fit and you're super bulky as well, right? I wonder how much of that you actually feel, because I have the same. I have days where I don't feel particularly fit, and I'm not the size of you, but then people will say, oh, you know, you look fit, or you've been in the gym, and I'm literally feeling at that point nothing like that. So clearly we both have this psychological thing where I'll go in the gym tomorrow morning and I will do something to make myself feel strong. Where's that come from?
Do you know what? I think that's why a lot of young men go to the gym. Like, I was really skinny and I wasn't that tall. I had a growth spurt, but I was like, as I was having a growth spurt, I looked really lanky.
I did the same.
And I just really hated it. And that's the reason I went to the gym. And I say like, this was like, probably not so much now, but maybe just, especially when I come off Love Island and you had to like think about your appearance a lot more. Like I was going out doing all my appearances, I was drinking quite a lot, and then I was losing weight from it. And people were saying it in the comments and it would affect me. Then I'd wear like 2 t-shirts under my jacket just to make myself look bigger. But like people might look at me and be like, that's so ridiculous. But it's not like, from being a bigger person or like a slimmer person, you still get that body dysmorphia. That was
kind of the point I was making. It's like, I think it's not necessarily understood as I guess the term would be body dysmorphic disorder, but I do feel really uncomfortable at times when other people are like, mate, I'm doing it, but I'm not feeling great about it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Everyone thinks differently. Like someone might look at another person that's in great shape and they might be feeling awful about themselves. You just never know.
Yeah.
Like I think it's like an internal battle with yourself, really.
Yeah.
But that's what I think we've got to do. Like being into fitness and looking after yourself is the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, it's really important to me. I don't know if you're aware of this. I'm a dad of 2 daughters, 13 and 15-year-old girls growing up. And so a lot of what I'm watching them sort of consume on social media and so on translates into the Gen Z. 70% of them, that's probably numbers getting bigger and bigger all the time, want to be an influencer when they grow up. And that word influencer, I've heard you say it's not who you say you are, right?
Yeah, I hate it.
I totally get that. So and I think labeling is clearly something I want to touch on as well. But the opportunity to influence, the opportunity in Gen Z's eyes to be able to pursue something they'd love to do, go traveling, be given a car, do stuff that doesn't necessarily mean they sit behind a desk in an office. You've already said it, but I want to know where you sit with kind of who you are, what your identity is. Because for me, you smashed it on TV. So in the past, people were never then called an influencer. So if you were on a sitcom and then you went into something else, you weren't an influencer. But it feels like the reality TV sits in that space where, like, let's be honest, you were on Loose Women before you came here on ITV, right?
Yeah.
Which is really cool, really real privilege to be invited onto that.
Yeah.
But is someone going to then say you were invited because you're an influencer? Where do you sit with all that?
See, I think I struggle with this question, and I bet my agent's looking at me like, well.
Tell you what I find fascinating. 70% of the next generation going through want to do something that actually I know you don't want to call it. So how do you guide that?
I just think the word influencer, like to me, if you're doing something to change someone's life, that's showing influence. If you're just like showing what you wear and just selling for a brand,
so there's a purpose behind it.
Yeah, I think you're kind of, I know this might be bad to say, but you're like an online salesperson. Do you know what I mean? In a weird way. But like influencer, I think it means more than what it is. Now it's just labelled like, oh, all these kids just want to like get all this free stuff on that. And don't get me wrong, it's been amazing. And I'm not knocking my life and my job, but just that word influencer. Maybe it's because I'm 34 now and there's kids that are like that, and I'm like, I'm not a kid anymore, so maybe I should get away from that, I don't know. But I've just got a really funny thing about it.
I can tell, but I also feel that you're at peace with so much. So I imagine there was a part of you that wanted to differentiate and grow beyond Love Island, which you have, like massively. And then there's the whole, the interest, and I think we'll come on to this, the interest with you and Liv as people, right? Which, we live in that society now, right? We have a window into people's world, and we can watch and we can listen, and that's depending on how much you want to put out on social media, right?
Yeah.
But that's something I feel like you've embraced, and yet it's this labelling of being an influencer that seems to be sticking. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, with like mine and Liv's life, like we put everything on social media. People think, oh, it's the perfect couple. What do you do to stay together? And it's like, we're not the perfect couple. We argue, we bicker, but you don't put all that online for the world to see. And like you said, people watch and follow what we do, but because they see us on a TV screen 45 minutes every night, the week for 6 weeks, people think they know you as a person. But I get it, because like 90% of people are really nice about me and Olivia, which I've been forever grateful for. But then obviously you always get the 10% that are always fake accounts or people that are just bitter and don't like you. And yeah.
How do you manage that? Because going back to my own daughters and my own relationship with social media, right? I was private on it until 3 years ago. Now I put stuff out which leaves me open to judgment, open to those negative comments that can come in, and it could be 1 in 1,000. And I know this is talked about quite a lot, but are you and Liv past that now? Or do you sit there having your evening dinner, the cameras are off, and you go, bloody hell, have you seen what this person's put?
Yeah, I still do that.
Well, okay.
I'm not going to lie, I still do that.
I'm quite glad to hear that.
Yeah, but I'm also kind of like, they're just not happy with themselves that they're doing it.
You can recognise where it's coming from.
Yeah, and then when you click the page, you can see that it's obviously a fake profile, no picture, no nothing. Because if they're seeing you out in the street, they'd probably say hello to you. But yeah, I mean, it depends what it is. If they talk about like my son or my family, then I'm like, I'll look at it and it plays on my mind. If it's more so about me, I'm just kind of like, oh, whatever. Like,
well, I get that. Yeah, the distancing side of things. And I get the feeling that if you had the choice, you'd bin the whole lot off. You know how important it is to you in terms of the opportunity to get things, but the fact that there's an element of the fact that you've got to do it, and so, but it doesn't feel like there's a deliberate kind of, I've got to do it, everything feels natural. But if you could just kind of go, I could just be private, do what I want, when I want, would you remove yourself?
I mean, that would be nice, but then it's also, I do kind of like sharing stuff. And like I said, I get to kind of promote and post what I want to post now, more so than when I first come out. So I'm in more control of it. And I kind of like, I don't know, like I'm proud to be a dad. So I want to showcase it. I want to showcase my son who like, I put him, he was learning to ride his stabilizer bike the other day, like the balance bike, sorry.
Yeah.
And he was just like, he smashed it, and I just wanted to upload it. But then I don't like putting him on there too much. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I didn't with my two girls, and their proud moments, your face lit up then, right?
Yeah.
And
it's honestly, it's unbelievable.
Take them to the climb when they got to the top, and you're like, wow, it's just, there's no better feeling than being a dad. And actually, do you think one of the reasons, I know you mentioned that your granddad was clearly a huge sort of maternal influence to you, but the lack of having a dad that you were close to, do you think that's become a real priority to you amongst all the other stuff that's going on to be a really good dad?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I was kind of, do you know what, I'm not even gonna lie, I wasn't even worried about being a good dad, because to me, like if someone moans about their dad, but if they're just sick of him for whatever reason, I'm like, at least he's there, like doing what he can. Like, as long as I'm there for Abel, that's half what a child needs. Do you know what I mean? And then I just want to teach my son like resilience. I want to teach him like his please and thank yous, be respectful. Yeah. And then I'm happy he can be whoever he wants to be.
But this kids do what you do, not what you say. You've got that coming, by the way.
Yeah.
You want to try teenage daughters or fake tan. No skirt,
well, we got
eyelashes going on. It's just like, but they've got to go through it, right? But you'll have this. But there's the best. It's the best feeling ever, right? And I know, I sort of feel like we're going like this, but I know that you had the news not too long ago with Liv expecting you lost a twin. Mm-hmm. So there was probably a sort of process you went through of visualising what was going to happen to then have to.
No, that's what I did.
How difficult's that been?
Yeah. So obviously, when you get told you're having twins, it was. So when you find out you're having your first, you're like, oh my God, how do I change a nappy? How do I do this? Then when you find out you're having twins, the first initial shock was like, oh my God, like we've got to do this, but twice again, and have a toddler running around. Then after that 5 minutes passed, was in the car on the way home. And then for the next 2 weeks, I was kind of visualizing, like imagine me and Liv in the front, the 3 kids in the back were going away for the weekend. And I kind of build them scenarios up in my mind. But then Liv, it's different because she has that connection because she's been growing something inside of her. But I've got that kind of mental connection there already. So when we found out, it was kind of like everything had just been took away from us. Because in my eyes, I'd already pictured what it was going to be like with twins and I'd come to terms with it. But then it's kind of like bittersweet because we've got a safe, healthy baby there and that's all you can focus on. But obviously when you get told, it was really upsetting. Yeah. But yeah, I just want to be there for Liv and make sure Abel's okay and my new baby girl's going to be okay. So
100%. And this is where I think your strength of relationship is, the time you've been together, the experiences you've had, you must be, I know you get told this and you've even said it, the sort of the perfect couple, but your resilience, the love you've got for each other, the sort of strength and time you've had together must have been super helpful to be able to get through that together.
I think it's because we're very similar. I mean, I've got to thank Love Island for bringing us together because like we are very similar in a lot of ways.
You have to find each other as well though, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. But like, I feel like we're just both not quitters. So I mean, a lot of people, especially in today's society, they'll just like, it's so easy to jump on dating websites and just message someone else on Instagram and just spit up with that person, just the first sign of trouble. And I think me and Liv have had our like fair share of arguments and stuff, but we kind of just work through them.
I love that. And you mentioned earlier, like, you don't share the arguments and so on. And it's almost like probably refreshing for anyone watching and listening to know that you have them, right? Because it's normal. But I also feel like a lot of what you sitting here now, you're exactly the same as when you walked in and were chatting out there. There's a consistency to you and to live. But I'd love to know, just diving into a little bit of a personal thing, where when you guys do have a tiff and so on, what do you do? Do you get over it quickly? Do you have almost like a way that works for you both, where you've almost got an understanding, where like, we've had a clash, you sort of, how do you move on?
But I've just got to realise that Liv wins every argument, and then I just carry on with my life.
I love that. Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, I think it's happy wife, happy life, but she's very good. She knows a lot of words, that's all I'll say. And she'll confuse me.
So she boxes you in with intellect.
Yeah, and then I'm done.
I love that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you've done that would be quite rightly deemed as successful. You've got some maturity and perspective now, and I think that also comes with being a dad. What would be your definition of success?
To be honest, I got asked this question before, and I think just about life is just being present. Because if everyone wants to be successful, but then like, where does it stop? Like, I've got friends that have been on the show, and they just care. Like, I've spoken to them recently, and they just care about, I want to do this, I want to do that, and they're constantly on to the next thing. Like, to me, as long as you've got like your family, you can provide for your family. Like, that's being successful to me, I think.
That is super. There's so many more things I'd love to ask you, but I'm conscious of time.
No.
What would you? I'd like to end on this. What would you say would be your ultimately your legacy?
I think I just want to. Values is a massive thing to me. So I just want my son and my daughter. I don't know if we will have any more. I think 2, and I'm happy. I just want to provide and do the best I can for Liv, Abel, and whatever my girl's name's going to be, because we haven't decided on that yet. And I just want them to enjoy their life as much as they possibly can, with like a lot more ease. But then like along the way as well, still teach them resilience and like build their character. So.
Yeah, but you'll do that, I can tell.
No, hopefully.
You're a pleasure to. What I love is you're a super good guy that's been through stuff that could have changed you, could have manipulated you, could have distracted you. But it's so obvious you're consistently present, and you've said that yourself, and I can feel that.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for making time to talk with me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.